So last day we have ended our discussion with the introduction of a nested for loop. Actually, day by day when we will discuss about more complex programming, you will see that the concepts individually that you are learning, for example, for loop, if else, switch case, while loop, and many more, we will see that a logic, a very complex logic for solving a very a real life problem or a complex problem is basically combination of all these simple logics using for loop, then while, if else, and all. I mean, you may have a situation like you have to take a condition within, if the condition is true, then you have to run some for loop. Within the for loop, again, maybe you need some condition, and so on. So a lot of nested will come. So you must be prepared for that. You must have sufficient amount of programming practice so that you will be habituated for those complex programmings. So to do this, actually, we will spend some more time on this nested for loop, and there is a very important part where we can do this practice, that is printing various patterns on the screen. Now, so let's discuss how we can put some we can print some pattern over here. So we are so topic for today is actually, just a minute. Topic for today is actually not a new thing. Using the same for loop, we will try to learn how we can print various patterns. So topic for is print patterns. Now what is pattern? Pattern can be anything, right? I mean, for example, if I say that I need a pattern something like this, a star one by one, say star 5 times. If I tell you to print this, what you will do, you will just say basically write a for loop I equal to 1, I less than 5, I plus plus. Within that, you will print. So 5 times this star will be printed. So this is the pattern. Now we are not interested the such very easy patterns. We are interested for some complex patterns. For example, if I ask you that let's do one thing, let's try to do a pattern something like star, 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 something like this. Okay, so you see, always remember one thing, that when we have to print a pattern something like a two-dimensional, so assume that this is a pattern you have to print basically on your screen, right? So for a time being, if I consider that this part is only your screen, so your screen will entirely show the pattern something like this. What you can do, there is two way you can try to do this. I mean, if I tell you to draw this pattern on your copy, either you can do it row wise or column wise. What I mean that either you can draw the all the stars in first row, then you will print the second star in, I mean, stars in the second row, then you can print the stars in the third row. This is one option. Another option you can do, like you can print the stars for the first column, then second column, then third column, then fourth column, like this. So one option is in this direction and another option is in this direction, right? The problem is that if you want to write a program that can print these patterns on the screen, then either of these you have to choose. The problem is that this is not possible by you. The reason is that when you will start printing something on the screen, then without any other special memory, it is not possible that you will print, you will after going to the next line, if you are in this particular line, suppose you are in this particular line, after printing some characters say A, when if your cursor come to the next line and print some character B, it is not possible by the cursor to move over the current line and print something. It is not possible. A cursor can move in this direction. A cursor can move in this direction, but it cannot move in this direction. Okay, that is why without any extra memory, if you want to print the stars only by something like printf stars in this using this particular statement, then you have to choose a fashion something like this. That means you have to print all the stars of the first row, then all the stars of the second row, then all the stars of the third row, something like this. Now question is that I have seen that in many cases that the students sometimes gets confused that how they can start writing the code for this type of pattern. But this is a very easiest pattern still. For them, I can tell you something, some logic. For example, for them I'm telling you that when each type of problem you have to do, just follow my approach what I am doing. You see, I will first just make this one as a matrix, something like this with cells, matrix with cells. Okay, so assume that this is a pixel. Okay, each and every pixel have these stars. Okay, and just write the names of these columns: column number 1, column number 2, column number 3, column number 4, row number 1, row number 2, row number 3, right? Now you see, we have to follow this particular approach. So that mean we have to print this particular row first, right? Forget about the other row, consider only this first row. So let's engage in this particular row first, and we have to print these stars. So if you just forget about this other part, this other two row, if you just forget about this, writing only this, drawing only this first row stars is something like this, what we have seen, right? So what you can do, you can just write a very simple for loop for this. You can simply write that for, if I consider that this particular column is identified by a variable say j. Why I am taking j, you will realize it very soon. Why not other variables? I mean, obviously you can use anything more, but I'm using j. So what you can write, you can simply write that j equal to 1, j less than equal to 4, j plus plus, right? And simply printf star, something like this. So if you execute this for loop once, what will happen? 4 star will be printed, and then your cursor blinks over here, right? Naturally, because cursor is moving towards right, so your cursor is blinking over here. Now if you look after in this actual pattern as a whole, you see that after printing these stars, basically you should print the set of stars for the same way for the second row, right? That means now you are basically, you want to engage yourself for this second line, right? Now if you only concentrate for the second line and you want to print these stars, it is basically same what you have written this for loop, but the difference is that you have to print them in the next line. So if you want to print them in the next line, you must write a statement printf /n. /n basically, when printf/n execute, the cursor actually changes its direction from here to the next line and it blinks over here, something like this. So after, when cursor came in the next line, now if you execute this set of code again, what will happen? Again this 4 stars will be printed here, and that I want. So what you can do, you can repeat this one over here for this second line. So first line done, second line done. Then you can write printf/n. Because you want to come back onto the next line, because basically you have to do this printf for the third row again, and you can rewrite this one again over here. And then you will stop. But question is that instead of 3 lines, if I have 300 lines, how it is possible? Will you do repeating this in this way? No, it is not possible. It is not a feasible job. Rather, what we can do, if you closely look in this program, you will see that this whole part actually being repeated many times. Sorry. This whole part, this lines is repeated actually 3 times. This for loop, then printf, again the for loop, then printf, again the for loop, then maybe printf required or not, doesn't matter. So I can say, if you somehow re-execute this set of code 3 times, then your job is done. And what is the easiest way to do this? Simply I will put one more for loop above this, and I will keep the whole statement in between that. Now depends on the number of line you have to print, you will simply re-execute this one. For example, if I consider this row is represented by I, that's why I use J over here. So I basically starts from 1, and I can be equal to n I plus plus. And what is n? N can be user input, n can be 3, n can be 4, n can be 300, n can be 10,000, anything. one thing is sure that n is number of row, and if you want to keep this 4 variable, you can keep say m. I mean, instead of 1 2 3 4, if it is 5 or 6 and so on, anyone, so you can keep this m is what? M is number of column. So when you will have a two-dimensional print in some form, that means one thing is sure, we can use the nested for loop to solve our purpose. So, and what will be the in, m, that depends upon the type of the uh, I mean type of this pattern, right? Type of the pattern. So in this way we can start thinking that how we can use a two, you can print a two-dimensional pattern and why it requires a nested for loop.